Martinez on the sofa. Alex, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Finally come on your boat as well.
Mate, I like to look after people, and no one better than yourself. I've known you now for what? How long?
It's been a year or two.
Probably a year or two. Yeah. You've been really
Golf,
a lot of golf.
Yeah. I think that's where we met.
Yeah. A lot of advice as well. Like, I know you ran a business very similar to my own. Sold it, exited it. You've been really good to spend a lot of time with. I really enjoy your company, so I really appreciate you coming on and giving us an hour of your time today.
Oh, I'm very happy to. If there's anything useful that I can say, then hopefully we get it.
Well,
Otherwise, we scrap it.
Hopefully, I can extract it.
Yeah.
So, why don't we start with Alex Martinez, where he was born, like your early background, before we get into your business story.
Well, born in London. Heritage is half English on my mum's side, half Mexican. I always say it's kind of interesting because I don't speak Spanish, but I do drink tequila, so that's how it sort of transpires. But grew up in a pretty modest home with my mum. So my mum and dad split up when I was younger. Not sure how much I had a part to play in that, but grew up in a household with my sister. We didn't have an awful lot, I suppose. That was it was kind of obvious from quite early on to me that we didn't have a lot of luxuries and different things. So I think that probably was a bit of a catalyst for me to go out there myself and look for opportunities to sort of build things, and that kind of led to me doing quite a few entrepreneurial things through school and college.
So what sort of stuff comes to mind when you think back to those school and colleges, that entrepreneurial spirit that you were demonstrating then? Well,
it was funny because 25, 30 years ago, it wasn't seen as entrepreneurial. It was that was the time of Only Fools and Horses. So anyone who sort of showed any type of aptitude to do any sort of businesses, it was always you were Del Boy, right?
Right, okay.
So you're never you're never sort of entrepreneur. You were kind of Del Boy. So I used to go up Blackbush Market and buy clothes that I knew I could sell to friends and people around. So I used to do that out the back of my Fiesta. I used to run events in college. I used to run coaches all around the south of England. We used to come down a pool, actually. We used to come down a show bar. And lots of little ideas that I turned into sort of mini businesses. Very mixed success, I have to say. You learn quite quickly that your friends are not necessarily your best customers.
Yeah.
So, quite a few bad debtors and a lot of discounting going on. But, it was great grounding for kind of understanding the fundamentals of business.
You're just drawn to business as a passion around like putting business together and sales, or was it the money side of it where you mentioned you grew up and that you realised that the finer things in life maybe that you had to go and get yourself? What was the catalyst for you to go and do those things?
There's probably a few things. I mean, I think one of them was definitely, when you're at school and college, you look around, and if for any reason you don't have the latest things, you think, how am I going to, why not? Is there anything I can do about it? And so I think there's that side of things, but I think there's also just my personality as someone who who's got a bit of a fire. And it's quite self-motivated, quite
competitive.
Yeah, I don't win that often at golf against you, but quite competitive, and also I think I wasn't the same as my family in the fact that they saw sort of traditional academic achievement as the route to success, and for me I saw it slightly differently, and so
did that cause any conflict?
Yeah, I think I was, I was doubted a little bit in the way I thought. Especially when you go through school and you're letting your foot off the pedal when it comes to exam times, and you sort of cruise through that a little bit. But I had a bigger picture of what I wanted to do quite early on, and yeah, you had people doubting you a little bit, saying I don't think you're going to be able to do that, and that drives you a little bit as well. So
gives you that little chip on your shoulder.
And so I think the fire started, the fire started quite young, started burning, and then you use that to your advantage. And I think when I had ideas, the other thing is I wasn't afraid to kind of push through that sort of glass, that glass ceiling, let's say, to actually take the first step to do the idea. And I think that's one thing that, lots of people have ideas, but it's sort of making
holds them back.
Yeah,
making fear of failure.
I don't know. I think it's maybe that first step, isn't it? Of I've got this idea, and then you say, okay, well, why don't you get the website going, or set up the company, and I think that there's a sort of an invisible barrier, and
why do you think you don't suffer with that?
I don't know. Maybe you didn't have anything to lose. I think that when you're younger, you think, well, I've got nothing to lose. I had a lot of self-belief, and for whatever reason, not sure exactly where, that comes from. But I you sort of believe you can set something up, and then you do it. And as I say, it's mixed success. I can't sit here and say they were they were really profitable. And
what was the biggest failure in that? I guess in that time, none of them are failures because there's going to be loads of learnings and stuff from it, right? But which would be like, I guess your favourite story from those times?
Probably most of the stories I can't tell on the podcast from taking coaches down to clubs, but I think
well, I'm happy to listen, believe me.
we had loads of incidents happen. I remember we had to ask a couple of people to leave the coach on the side of the motorway when it's snowing outside because trouble was kicking off on the coach. I remember one time the whole coach, when we were in the club, was robbed by two of the people that bought tickets, and loads of stuff was stolen. Lots of things that you don't predict that came up, and you have to deal with on the spot. And I think that's part of it. That's learning what a business is all about, is the unpredictables. And as I say, I sort of picked up the elements in the basics of sales and marketing, launching things, getting customers, getting understanding the financials and the budget, but then also unpredictable things coming from places that you're
quite comfortable in that position from.
Yeah, I think, now looking back, and I suppose everything that's happened, definitely sort of operating in that top percentile of stress is an area that's sort of quite normal, for me. So maybe more normal than someone else.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I don't.
You can handle it.
I don't mind it as much. I quite that sort of intensity of things happening and having to make, quick decisions or good decisions, the right decisions. I remember, in our business that we had, something would come up every single day, and you'd have to deal with that, and you've got to keep yourself fairly balanced in the decision making. And I'll be honest, though, that wasn't always the case. When we first started the business, I was kind of really erratic with how I felt about stuff, and your sort of mood swings when things went wrong. Uh-huh. But I think you realise over time that if it's not going to be serious enough to send the ship down, then you're better off operating this sort of, slightly more balanced area.
Yeah. It's like going back to kind of like a philosophical piece where like Buddhism would be like take the middle ground, right? So don't get too high with the highs, don't get too low with the lows. And if you can kind of tread that line throughout your life, that's the best way that we can operate to navigate, successfully.
Yeah, and I think that's...
You've been able to do that.
It sounds pretty. Yeah, it sounds pretty close to where we got to. It took us a little bit of time to realise that's the best environment to make good decisions. You listen to everyone's different point of view. You don't get too, concerned if it's an opposite point of view to yourself, because that's where a lot of arguments sort of start in businesses. You want to go this direction, someone else wants to go another way. Yeah. Actually, what happens is probably it's a blend of the two, which is the best landing point we found in our business. So,
say me on that entrepreneurial journey then. So we obviously spoke about through school, college, those that those projects, the coaches interested. And then like when did you go to university or did you?
So I was quite impatient coming out the back of college to kind of make progress, I suppose, in some sort of business opportunity. I went to art college, not quite sure what
What
the reason
me.
for that was. I did a year in art college, but I'd always sort of been interested in art, design, sort of that side of things. So college, I suppose, pushed.
You're a big thinker though, aren't you? So that kind of for me, when you say that, I am surprised that you went to art college knowing you, but I'm also not surprised in the same respect because you're a big thinker, you're creative.
Yeah, I think definitely I would call myself creative. I'm interested in sort of creative sides of business, more creative elements, branding, marketing, all of that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, no, I think I was kind of pushed down that direction by college, and it was a bit of a diversion. But there's still things you look back on to say, okay, I picked up interesting things there. But so I did that, and then I went to university, study marketing, Southampton, but quickly realised that I was a little bit bored, and so I ended up spending that hard-earned cash that I'd made through these various enterprises on ridiculous things that you do at university,
A clubbing.
Yeah, like that, and just general stuff and going out, and then found myself at the end of the year in debt, and thought, okay, I don't quite like this feeling. I'm gonna go and get a job for the summer, and I went off to a software company to do sales down in Whiteley, so not too far from Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And that was meant to be a sort of 3-month, get some money in, back to uni, and I suppose a few things came together. Timing of when it was late 90s, so in technology there was a huge amount of money coming into technology companies, a business that had a lot of potential, and it took about 70 million of investment in the months that I was there, the business. So new investors came in.
70?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was about a 50-person company in the US and Europe.
What's it called?
A company called Personic.
Okay.
And a new sort of investment and management team came in.
Yeah.
And
what's the software we were doing at this time?
So it was kind of e-recruitment software. So it was taking things like contact management in recruitment agencies and corporate HR departments and digitalizing it. Okay. So sort of almost like an early version of Salesforce.com, but in recruitment businesses. They were great company, great people. However, the investors at the time thought they could put some better people in, and so they cleared out the top management while I was there, and the marketing lady who was working there wasn't happy about what happened. She decided, I'm leaving, and so they were stuck without a marketing person, and so obviously I put my hand up and said I can do that. I've studied marketing
at uni, yeah.
And there were so many other things going on at the time that they said, okay, let's give it this guy. He thinks he can, he can do it. And I still remember the first meeting. They came in and they said, okay, so we've got 350,000 in the budget that we need you to go out and spend. Do you think you could do that?
Yeah, that's a nice conversation to be having.
I think I can do that. And the great thing about it is you had money to go and experiment with. So investing in events, PR, agencies.
How old were you at this point?
So I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice spot to find yourself in, right?
Just
350 grand budget, running marketing for
it was
funded software business.
I kind of knew it was an opportunity was opening up, and it's one of those things where you essentially put your hand up and you say, okay, I'm going into something, I'm claiming something that...
Put yourself out there.
Yeah, you got to put yourself out there. And also, I think when you do put yourself out there, I made sure that I worked harder than anyone in the company. I was in there earliest, I was staying till late, because also I had that sort of slight doubt that I didn't really know what I was doing.
Bit of imposter syndrome.
There you go. So you could work really hard.
Good driver, yeah.
Yeah, work really hard, and then in time you can pick up the things from the right people, and so I was fortunate with the circumstances, but then you've got to make it into something.
Yeah, so they say luck is what preparation meets opportunity, right?
That's it. And and so really I just decided I'm just going to put everything into it, work hard, and that was the catalyst. Then I met the business partner that we ultimately started.
So how long were you in that role for, would you say?
3 years.
3 years. And out of that, I guess, first year, 350k, just out of interest, what was the best spend you made? What was the worst spend you made?
What you learn with marketing is half it works, half it doesn't. You never know which half, and that's that's the classic line, right? So I invested in loads of conferences. We went out, lead gen, pretty good. PR mixed, but we were all about establishing our brand as the number one brand. So we had a really clear kind of vision for what we wanted, and I think that's important. Where we wanted to be positioned, and so everything was about creating, the company around that. And so I think, I learned so many things from that business of how to do things, but then I also learned what can go wrong. The business was due to IPO 99, and they had overstated their sales, from what I remember, was the issue. So they delayed the IPO by, I think it was 6 months, and then the crash happened in March, just as that delay had happened. The first drop in the first crash of the dot-com shares, as it were. Mm-hmm. Everyone said it's going to be okay, there'll be a rebound. There wasn't. It carried on down, and the business was, like a lot of other companies at that time, churning through a lot of cash. And I remember I was at an event, and you for all intents and purposes, you were flying. But then, we got a call and said, half the people are going to be let go in one day. And so you saw instantly the flip side of the coin of how quickly, with bad, the wrong decisions at the wrong times can affect a business, even as successful as the business we'd created, great people there. And so, you sort of see the other side, going down as well as the going up, and I think all of those things you take on
with
board
you,
as
that experience. Yeah. And so you said you met your business partner in that time of that company.
Yep.
Okay.
So a guy called Mark. He was more into the tech and the data side, and I was more on the sort of sales and marketing side. So, we were coming up with different business ideas while we were there. One of the investors came in shortly after the sort of crash happened and said, "Do you guys want to come up to London and create a new sort of incubator business in our big company, almost like a startup within their company?" And we could see that things weren't going in the right direction for that company. I wanted to move to London, and so we went off on another journey together, kind of in a bigger business. Very quickly we realised, certainly I realised, this isn't for me. The sort of bigger corporate environment, it just didn't move quickly enough. It wasn't agile enough. People weren't in it for the right reasons, to really create an amazing company. And that's what we'd been doing for the last 3 years. So
too slow a pace.
Yeah, the pace was almost like moving from fast lane into slow lane, and it was a real change. And and so I think that was always probably going to be a sort of stepping stone role. And what transpired is we ended up coming into contact with a procurement and supply chain audience who we didn't know anything about, basically buyers in big businesses were coming into the meetings where we were trying to sell certain HR type services. And at the same time, Mark and I were discussing sort of various business ideas, one of which was a kind of digital network, almost like a LinkedIn type idea for business professionals, and with a sort of consulting service wrapped around it, and sort of, you know, some knowledge exchange and different things, but almost like an early type of LinkedIn, before LinkedIn. So this is early 2000s.
Yeah.
And we sort of said we can kind of test it on procurement, because no one's really looking at that space and no one's serving it in any, you know, in any type of serious way with information and with networking. And so we talked about it.
It's a really important community as well, right? These are the
now.
these
Yeah,
are the guys
it
that
was
are
then.
deciding whether we also spend money somewhere.
That's it. I mean, it's you know, it's a massively strategic function, but it's changed over the last 20 years, where previously it was seen as the guys that come in and, you know, maybe buy chairs, tables, laptops, you know, come into meetings and almost certainly marketing meetings caused a little bit of friction with asking for contracts on things, whereas, you know, a lot of marketing used to be done on, you know, environments like this with a handshake and nice locations and all the perks, and procurement will come in and say, no, we want the right types of terms, and we want deliverables and all of that stuff. So the function was going through a transformation, and we happened to move into it at the right time with the right type of
Vision.
mindset, which was sort of high energy. Let's change what's here and let's build something together. That sort of collaborative mindset, which was quite early in the 2000s. You know, a lot of businesses had always been very protective around their IP and, you know, sharing too much information, especially big corporates. And we were just moving into this sort of, you know, the post-2000 environment of the sharing economy. And so we plugged into that at the right time, and we started running events. And that was really about a customer development exercise to try and find out whether or not our ideas were actually going to land, and more sort of bigger network ideas. But then suddenly the events really took off. We'd never run events before, and suddenly everyone was talking about these events, and we suddenly thought, wow, okay, we're an events business.
How big were these events? Like conference type events, like getting loads of people in the room over a couple of days, or how did you start the event side?
We started with a formula that we'd seen. One day event, sponsors, delegates. We provide the infrastructure in the middle.
Do you remember how many people you had at your first one?
Yeah, I remember most of the clients as well.
Oh, nice.
You know, you remember every deal.
Yeah.
That happened, and we were in Mark's second bedroom at the time, and we got, I think, about 75 delegates to that first meeting. We signed about 4 sponsors. We did it at Victoria Park Plaza. I remember working like 3-4 weeks out till 2-3 in the morning, because you've got to originate everything. Everything's brand new. If you come from an events background, you could have brought a lot of, you know, the templates with you. But do you
remember what you generated from that event?
Yeah, we generated about 100K. My wife was working. She was my girlfriend then, but she was working for us. Mark's other half were on the front desk.
Yeah, so this really hits home for me, because I remember our first event. There was 12 people out. I can remember the people there. I had my mum on the front desk, like making people teas and coffees and giving them name badges and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I remember what my wife's quite, you know, she's quite loud and energetic, and I remember being able to hear her from the conference hall talking and telling various, you know, stories about things, and I'm thinking, you know, we're going to hear it. But also I remember a guy got up on stage, and he had, you know, we'd got something wrong with the presentation, and you know, luckily we'd given out these packs that you never give out with all of the presentation slides in. I mean, we printed, you know, certainly one sustainable business at that time. We printed all the slides out and everything, and you know, we'd had the good fortune, more than foresight, of doing little things. So when things went wrong, we actually had sort of backup plans. And I think that because we were so new to it, we had plans B and C as well as plan A. And so actually that worked quite well for us.
That's great. Well, that's great planning in general, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's easy to, as time goes on, just expect things to always work out.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, it's I guess from listening to you, great that you are thinking about those other things, because most people don't. I mean, there's definitely some scenarios where I do think about, actually, if this goes wrong, what I'll do, and I'm pretty good on my feet. But you know, I've definitely seen people make mistakes. It's like, oh wow, I don't know what to do, and you spend a week then, or a couple of months, or whatever it might be, trying to remedy that particular thing, and then you can lose a lot of time and money, and actually it could be fatal.
Yeah, and I think
so somebody that done that really well. Sorry, on that, I remember being in the pandemic. Darren Cooper from Peter Cooper, right, who we both know, and he planned out. I remember listening to him. He'd be in a boardroom. He'd plan out. Okay, if I've got my plan A, my plan B, and my plan C. I've planned all this out for this year. If this happens, I know what I'm going to do. If this happens, I know what I'm going to do. This happens, what I'm going to do. I think that's just smart.
And I think in the events world, you know, in sort of event operations world, you almost never focus on plan A.
Yeah.
It's only about plans B and C. You know, what happens if, you know.
Another good one. Have you ever heard Penn Haddo speak? It's like an Arctic explorer, right? So he's going on like an expedition and stuff like that, and he wrote a spreadsheet of all the things that could go wrong before he left on like an Excel spreadsheet, like polar bear eats me, XYZ, so that he knew in the instant of whatever happened, he knew what his answer was. I mean, if you can give yourself that foresight before it happens, it can save you a lot of stress, can't it?
Yeah, but I also think, you know, people who are building businesses are always optimistic, and that's right. You know, you need to be optimistic to actually build a successful business. However, that means that sometimes you ignore the potential, you know, risks that could come into play. And so I agree that you should always have that sort of, you know, risk mitigation list. You know, what happens if these things go wrong with the business? What decisions will I take? And I think events is a good grounding for that. Because it's all, you know,
many variables.
Yeah, right? And you work a whole year for like 1 or 2 days, and everything has to go right for those 1 or 2 days. And of course, it never does. But as long as the people coming to that event see everything going right, that's all that matters.
Nice. It's the first event, 100k, put a load of put all those
crazy amount of work.
Yeah.
But we got the bug. You know, we realised we had a business then, and we were away. And so at the same time, we'd brought on another founder of the business alongside Mark and I, who was one of Mark's old friends from Wales, called Richard. And we brought on our first employee. So there was the 4 of us in the second bedroom, living the dream. Yeah, nice. Taking the rubbish out at the end of the day when Mark's wife came back and made sure we did all the...
Do you look back at those days now with just fond memories, being like, that's what it takes? And, you know, I look back and like they were, you know, at the time you're kind of always striving, aren't you?
You've got 2 ways of building a business. You know, you've got the sort of the organic way of building a business, step by step, or you take a lot of funding and you try and do this sort of leapfrog. Let's go right from 0 to 8 on a journey. And there's all sorts of issues that come with the leapfrog, as there is, you know, going the sort of the organic way. But I think for us, because we were new, it was almost our first proper business, we almost needed the time to make the mistakes, to go down the wrong paths, and that then enabled us to sort of get back on track. And if we'd had people from outside, investors, kind of, you know, pushing you in certain directions, maybe it wouldn't have worked in the same way.
Tell me on. So was this event the first one called Procurement Leaders? Was the company called that then?
Yeah, it was actually called. It was a really snappy title. It was called European Leaders in Procurement. Okay. Because my philosophy was always, I'd been in the recruitment space, and I'd remember this event, and I'd been working with the CEO on a presentation in one of my old companies, and he was going to this event called global leaders in recruitment. And I said to him, why are you going to that? And he went, it's global leaders in recruitment. And I said, yeah, but they that's just the name. And he said, no, everyone goes. And I said, is it really that simple? And I always remembered that bit. And I said, okay, when we got our business, let's make the name actually what it is. European leader in procurement, and people can say, that's
what it is on the tin.
That's us. And actually it was great because when you call people up, you say that's who we are, people instantly say whether or not it's them or not. And so you don't have to go into a whole big explanation about who you are and what you're trying to do. So that worked, and ultimately as we went outside of Europe, we trimmed the name, and we went from there. So the first 5 years was, classic kind of startup business. Every idea you did, it was kind of in the pub. Someone's got an idea, let's do it. Whatever.
See what sticks.
Yeah. So we're going off on roads all over the place. Not very efficient as a business, but we're building credibility with big brands. We're talking the major corporates in the world. GSKs, Shells, Unilevers, and we're building credibility because we're building relationships, and we had a vision for what we wanted as a network. And I think there was a lot of really talented, executives who come into procurement, because it's actually a really interesting job. You get to negotiate, you get to do sales, you get to go and meet suppliers, and we developed rapport with people early on, or certainly tried to. And
on that, what would be your best tips of building rapport and relationships with people?
Honesty, trust. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Go the extra mile. Our events, I remember people would turn up and they'd need a Nokia charger. So you can see how long ago it was, a Nokia charger, and we would go out and buy them. So yeah, we'll get you one. Run out, literally run to the shop, run back within 5 minutes. Client's got Nokia charger. So go the extra mile, but also extra details. We did a deal with Filofax for all our folders, which also sounds a little bit old school now you talk about it, but this is pre-iPhone.
Yeah.
And Filofax still had a prestige, and no one was doing Filofax folders. So I thought, if they're going to every other conference, they're getting, bits of plastic or whatever. We want something that looks really, really professional. And our focus was very much on the high, the sort of top 5-10% of professionals in the function. That's where our niche was going to be, because the institutes served the rest. So our opportunity really was with the top professionals, and so they would be the things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those first 5 years, and then what? After 5 years, you got a bit more focused.
We got more focused because we had to. We'd launched a new business. We'd launched several new kind of product lines. Stretched ourselves really thin. If you looked at our website back then, it was like this sort of what I call like a Frankenstein. Any idea was just plugged onto it. And so you probably remember going to these sites and you'd look at it.
What are they doing? I'm confused a bit.
No idea what they do.
Yeah.
Because we did everything, and everyone felt that everything we did was important. And we almost, that was almost our downfall as a business, is stretching ourselves too thin, running after every idea. We'd launched a new company, a research company, and that was burning through a lot of cash. And we got to a bit of a pivotal point in our, our life as a company, and we had to bring the businesses. So Mark had gone out to sort of build the research company. I was doing the network business. We had to bring those businesses back together. Otherwise, we were risking taking both businesses down. This was around 2011 time, so we've been going about 5-6 years. And we reorganised the business into one, and we stripped out 80% of what we've been doing, and we just focused on really high quality events and high quality information, so research. So
how long did that process of that filtering down in your own minds take?
It had to happen really quickly.
Okay.
You know, it had to happen within a few months, and it was tough. It was really tough because
let a load of people go.
We had to let some people go who we were amazing friends with, because you know, at that
Got to
size,
cut the arm off to save the body.
At that size, everyone is you're really close to, because you're going through something kind of as a group. It's more than just, you know, a business. It's you're building something together, and each day you can see it happening. And it's a real shock when not everything works in the way that you want it to work, but we had to do it. So, we brought the businesses together. We stripped out a huge amount of things that we felt were nice to haves for our clients. We had a great membership program running at this time. We had the research business. We had a training business. We had our events. We had all sorts of other things going on, and we just focused in on subscription research and our membership and our events, and that was the best thing we could ever do, because the next 5 years we grew 10x what we'd done, and so that focus, clear vision, we brought in some outside support, so we've got a NED, really experienced NED in.
Investors or just the experience?
We've taken a little bit of investment in the research business, so we ended up sort of diluting a little bit of the main company when we brought them in, but not very much. We still held plus 90% of the business. But yeah, a little bit of investment plus advice, and we went into 2012 with a really kind of clear plan. And I think we had a clear plan not to waste any more time on things that were not our core. We had a really streamlined team of the best of what we had, and we had some good support and advice around the company, and that's what made the difference. And of course, we had really good products, we had great relationships, good customers, and next 5 years off we went, and that sort of set us up. We expanded internationally, went to Australia, US, grew the business, and team up. And the following 5 years after that, we started getting into new services, and ultimately we got really close to the original vision of this sort of digital network in procurement supply chain. The brand grew to become sort of leader in the space, and yeah, we worked incredibly hard, but we had a lot of success, and then 2019 we found a partner to link in with and sold the company.
Going towards exit, then, were you always thinking about, when were you thinking about exiting this company? Was it a couple of years prior to 2019? When did you start?
Probably after about 3 years. And it almost killed me every single year.
Yeah.
You always think, I can't do this anymore. It was massively intense, but you look at 3 year horizons.
Okay.
And we said, am I ready for another 3 years? And we all sat down as a team. We went, yeah, we've got such a great opportunity, let's go. And then it was all in again. And you'd get to 3 years, it almost killed you.
So what, 2016, are you thinking, right, these 3 years is all about exit now?
So we had a lot of interest around 2013-14 from various partners and companies, and who came to us and said, look, we really interested in bringing you guys into the fold. And so we listened to a bit of interest, and we did it as a bit of a test, almost like a test ground for an exit. We were, we probably said, look, if something really comes out of the blue, then we might seriously consider it. But I think we were erring on the side that it's less likely than more likely. But we actually got some pretty serious offers around that time, and we were in quite serious discussions with a few companies, and in the end we decided not to, for various reasons, to do with to do with all the aspects you'd imagine, the sort of the deal that you're being offered,
Yeah,
and
like the money, and
but also
got energy, like the energy to stay in it. But yes, maybe I do have the energy to go and push a little bit harder and put the number up, and maybe those are sort of conversations you're having internally, I'm assuming.
It was also because the main shareholders were in different roles. Mark had 2011-12 had moved into a board-only role when we reorged. I had carried on running the business, so they then weighted part of the offer more towards the management team, and so that wasn't going to work perfectly well for all of us involved. So it wasn't the right timing, but we learnt an awful lot, and so it sort of made us more aware of what the business needs to be if we were going to have those discussions again. And part of it was that me and Mark, as the major shareholders, would need to have the same role. So we'd actually need to be out of the business so we can make a clear decision around the company as almost investors as opposed to, operational execs. So the next 5 years were about actually almost a succession plan for me to move out the business and bring a new CEO in to, run the next phase of the journey.
So when you guys finally left, how big was the business? And you're one of those. You're a rarefied success story, aren't you? You built a business from scratch, sold it, exited. I don't know the actual number, but it'd be 7, 8, 9 figures. One of those. one of those.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't even know if we weren't allowed to talk about it for a long time. We possibly still aren't, but it was certainly a meaningful amount, and I think the best part of it for us was that everyone important got looked after, and or certainly 99% of the people. There were a few things that happened with a few people leaving that I really wish they'd stayed for the final bit, but generally everyone who'd been
on the journey for a long time did well out of it.
Got looked after, and that's one of the biggest things that we took away from it as a founding team, that we were able to do that. Obviously, we're looking after our families as well, but it was a great business to partner up with. They were very similar to us, but based over in the US. They were looking to expand internationally. It's been a successful link up, and a lot of the team have stayed on even in the last 2-3 years since it happened. So shareholders were very happy. The outside shareholders that had supported us through everything. So yeah, I couldn't really, and I feel quite fortunate because I was able to see the different proposals on the table, and they weren't, they were all slightly different, but really pleased that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, congratulations. Hard doing it, building it, then exiting, getting a few quid. Great, it's solid
easy.
work.
Easy, isn't it?
It sounds easy.
Easy.
That's what I mean. It sounds easy, but the journey, and it's very few people that are able to, if that's what they're setting out to do, to actually achieve that. So, congratulations on the hard work and actually execute the vision and a lot of things you spoke on. I kind of want to touch on what you're up to now. Your business tips and tricks and any wisdom you'd impart off after all of that journey, and then obviously we get into the my last question, which I love. So I guess my next bit is, obviously now I know you're investing, right?
Yeah.
So how are you finding being an investor? That kind of this new chapter of your life.
It's different. It's a different life. It's you go from the sort of intensity of 24/7 on a business, all encompassing, all absorbing, all about one brand, to
playing golf a lot.
yeah. Trying to get your handicap
going
down.
on holiday a lot.
Trying to, I mean, and to a sort of a different week. And my week is probably split 30% working with the investments that I've made. So I invest in startup businesses, angel investing. Probably have about 30 investments, of which half of them I work with in various capacities, sort of advisory type roles, working with the founders to try and navigate those difficult first stages of a business. I also then, on top of that, have 2 businesses that we founded in the last couple of years. One of those is a business called Supply Day, which we started up during COVID times, and it provides virtual events for big corporates who are looking to bring their supplier groups together for regular meetings. That used to happen physically. We're now giving it a much more sort of sustainable option, digital option to happen virtually on a more frequent basis, and that's looking really promising.
Nice.
So I've got another business that I've recently started called Landpad, which is an infrastructure business for the electrical vertical takeoff and landing industry, which is effectively flying cars, which are coming.
Right. Okay.
They're on their way. They're taking some time, but
There'll be it.
yeah, I think 25 to 2025, 2030, it's going to be quite a regular occurrence to see electrified, silent, sort of Uber style flying cars, 4 to 6 man. So yeah, I'm building a company that's going to provide some infrastructure there.
What advice would you give to, an aspiring entrepreneur that was looking for an investor? What are you looking for from somebody?
Yeah.
Someone wants to pitch you. What are you looking for?
It's sort of changed a little bit as I've got a bit more experience as well. I think it's easier to back people who have done it before, and obviously having not done it before, I know that that's not the answer that you'd want for someone investing. But if you're investing as part of your, that's your profession, you're looking for investments that are going to turn into successes.
You don't be wasting money.
Yeah, and generally, people who
like track record
worked out the formula of how to build a successful business are obviously more likely to have success again. Now, that's not to say that a lot of my investments are first-time entrepreneurs, but there's more navigating the hurdles in those environments, and there's more there's more likelihood that those ones might slip up, I think. So I'm looking for that. Obviously, you're looking for growing market. You're looking for a well thought through concept. You're looking for really solid scale and projections around scale. You're looking for people who are obviously ambitious, obviously have the right characteristics, because in the end, people will make the business. They will make any business successful if they've got the belief. I do think that. So yeah, it's not easy though. It's definitely it's not easy to find the right the right businesses that tick the boxes. And I also want businesses that are sort of align a bit more with areas that I'm my values. Let's say I'm looking at things in wellness market, mental health, longevity. Also looking at things in sort of sustainable industries. If sustainable fashion is one of those things that I'm invested in. So trying to align the business you're investing in.
Things that you're interested in, that you want to be interested in your investments.
And also sort of businesses that are trying to improve
the world.
What's out there,
make it better.
Without making it too.
No, that's not corny.
No,
it's cool.
Big thing, right? So, yeah,
the difference being fulfilled. Contributing to the world.
Yeah,
I love that.
And so, it's things that I'm involved in. You're looking for those sort of characteristics. So, but yeah, it's not easy to find the right businesses, and I can't tell you whether or not I have yet because it's still
early days.
Still early days. Yeah.
What's Alex Martinez's 3 biggest strengths, would you say?
Belief. One. I think, and that's the difficult thing about school. The education system. How can you teach that with people? Teach that in schools. So I'm not sure they've got it right there, to be honest.
You've got kids, right?
Yeah.
How are you trying to instill belief into them? Having known that it's played such a huge part in your career, breaking through that glass, taking that step.
Yeah, you encourage them to go for things. So my son's, he's he said, we're watching The Voice. He goes, right, I'm going to go on The Voice. And I said, go on then. I'll do the application form if you want. And he said, yeah, go on then. Did the application form, The Voice Kids.
Yeah, no, mate, I know exactly. And I'm listening to it, and it makes so much sense to me. It's the
and I thought he won't do it. He's not going to do it. Anyway, so we got something back. Do your rehearsal. I said, look, you're going to have to plan this. He goes, no, one take. I'm going to do it. We did one take, put it in. They then called him back. We went up to ITV, and we just kept going with it. And I said, look, that's teaching you that if you believe you can do it, just take that first step. We didn't, ultimately didn't quite get onto the show, but I think it gives you that sort of
100%. I think too often we say those things, and then people will be like, "Oh, we're all contributing to that side," where we say, that's not for you, or don't be silly, or whatever. And it's that friction you cause in people's mindset that stops them from going for it.
Yeah, and I think that's the environment that I grew up in, and also was our sort of previous generations kind of mindset. On you won't be able to do that. That's not your area of expertise, or that's not going to give you it's a classic kind of doctor, lawyer, accountant. That's
the safe option. This is going to be this is.
And so
education's the route out.
And so I think belief is really important. Just go, just get going.
Nice.
So
we'll stick with you, right? So strengths, belief.
I think energy. I always said to everyone, if you're going to go in, wherever you go, be the person in the room that gives the energy, that doesn't take it out. We've all been in those meetings where the energy somehow just leaves the room when you get in there.
The radiator.
Yeah, and it's hard when you're building a business or in in a profession that's stressful. But I remember when I used to walk up the stairs of the office, and whatever was going on, and there was always lots going on, I would think, right, as soon as that door opens, that's my responsibility to step in and be the energy giver in the company. And yeah, I think it's almost the speed you walk and the things that you do. That's probably something that I would say is important.
Okay. Speed up your walking. If you're struggling with energy out there,
I always said, this guy's walking too slowly.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
Yeah.
He was about 75. No, he wasn't. But
I'm going to take that as a real practical tip. I'll be have you in my head now, maybe a little bit. Everyone's trying to block that stuff out. Just, Josh, speed up your walking. Please.
Everyone's going to.
I'll be running everywhere.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So,
okay, so 2, energy.
Yeah, energy, strengths, probably. Probably strategy and working out how to put the right things in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, nice.
I think everyone's got a hand. They're holding a hand of cards in whatever, wherever you're doing in your life. And you've got some kings, you've got some twos, you've got a few in the middle. If you're lucky, you've got an ace. But it's the order that you play that hand decides the outcome, of your career or what happens in your personal life. And I think that I've always thought about, okay, if, let's go back to chess. I used to play chess when I was a kid. Okay, if I do this, what happens here? If that happens, and just working all these things through in my head to get to the outcome that you want. That was something that I kind of in a way enjoyed doing, and if you enjoy something, you do it a little bit more. And so probably those things.
I love that strategy of the game. It's all chess moves.
And it is I think business is a game. I think you have to see it like that, otherwise it can get too much. You're in this game. Can you find a way to complete your game, whatever that completion is? And I think as long as you know where that completion is, play it as a game, and I think then it becomes a bit more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, don't become so attached to the outcome, right? Realise maybe you didn't get the result today. Go and dust yourself off.
Yeah.
No stress. Come back, train harder, go play again.
Yeah, and people are, generally people in business do have a competitive side to them, so you can.
Yeah. I think about business like sport, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
think about it like football. I'm like, you may be better than me, and I'm going to run my socks off, and I'm going to go at it hard, and like, long as I don't lie, steal, or cheat, like, I'm going to play by the rules.
You have
I'm going to shake your hand at the end, but inside, I'm like, I'm not going to swear, but or maybe I'll be like, fuck you. I'm going to come back tomorrow, and like, I will swear, because that's how my competitive nature in my heart is just like I hate losing. Do you know what I mean? But I know it's a game. Do you know what I mean? There's more important things in life as perspective. Do you know what I mean?
And generally in a game, you have an opponent, so it's no fluke that lots of businesses like having a rival business that they've got to compete with.
Well, you should be grateful for that, shouldn't you? Really, because if they weren't around, like, you'd be complacent, maybe. Do you know what I mean? That's pushing
exactly
you
what
forward.
Happens. And you see it in sport. You look at Ronaldo and Messi, or you look at Federer and Nadal.
Well, maybe they wouldn't beat Ronaldo.
They would never have got to where they had unless they'd had the other person. So it's important to when you look at it as a game, you look at your rival company. You look at the best out there, and you say, that's who we're going after. And most people, they laugh, isn't it?
Yeah.
They say, what, you're going to be the next X. And you say, yeah. You look at where their sort of elements of weakness are, and where you can sort of get yourself in. And then it's that land and expand, isn't it? You get yourself in through a little neat, nook and cranny into their business. You do it better than they do, and then you suddenly start adding bits on. And before you...
That's your strategy coming out. I like that.
There you go. Well, it doesn't always work, but that is one strategy.
Before I move on to some of the personal stuff, I guess my next question on business is, if I was to ask you, you're going to give a business owner or a new business owner one piece of advice, what would you say to them?
Have a vision and a destination of where you want to go. Because you have so many decisions that you have to make in a business, and I feel you've got to get kind of 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 right for it to actually. So I think if you know where you want to go, it just makes those decisions easier, because if you're hiring someone, you can sit across the way and you can think, is this person going to get me there quicker or slower to my... And you can think, okay, I think they're going to... Is this decision I'm going to make on this new thing, on this new Sunseeker, is that going to get me to my goal faster or slower?
Yeah.
And it just helps you remove so many...
pieces on the chessboard, as it were.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I think having that vision, having that destination, also telling your team what it is so everyone knows, everyone can be aligned.
And people like the feeling of making progress, right? So if this is my mountain and this is what we're trying to climb together, and you can, as the leader, can be really clear on that. And you're like, guys, we're going to go climb that mountain. Yeah. As you all take that journey, it feels great. It's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I think that really is the job of a leader.
That's it.
And we should all lead our own lives to that point, right? So if you know where you want to head.
Yeah, and if it's too sketchy, then it's easy for people to misconstrue what you're trying to do, and so you can head off down slightly the wrong direction, and people come back and say, "This is what I thought you meant. Yeah. This was my interpretation of it." So I think it's why that clarity, especially in the leadership position, that clarity of where we're heading. This is the goal. They call it the North Star, whatever.
Yeah, the North focus.
That just really helps. I think.
I love that. Thank you. Alex, what do you do in your spare time? What are your hobbies, interests, anything on your bucket list?
I think, as I say, I'm dad, husband, dad to 2 energetic kids. I'm trying to make sure, now I've got this opportunity, I spend a bit of time with them. It's always been the cliche that you can't build a business and have some family life, so kind of put the time in early so I can maybe get a bit of time. So I don't want to be, not there at the important stuff that comes with that. So that sports, improving the golf handicap.
What are you down to now?
At 6 now.
Oh, yeah,
6.5. Yeah. Which I'm closing in on you, aren't I?
Mate, you really are. I think I'm like 6'2" now. So
yeah.
Not far out at all.
One good round.
That's it, mate. You'll be better than me next time we speak.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you're better. That's just the problem with it.
Well, I have to have this argument with my brother all the time, right? So we used to play golf loads as kids. And, we've got the official handicap. So he's like, at the moment, he's 6'0" and I'm 6'2". So we've always been really, really close. Yeah. But for like the last year and a half, I've been like 0.2 better than him. And I've always I've always in that moment of time been like, I'm clearly the better golfer because, the results are results and here's the
exactly. The numbers are there.
Yeah. But now it's really difficult for me because I have to concede it by the same logic that he's the same. But I'm like, you've only been there for 2 weeks, mate, so... Yeah.
It's great. It's good. It's a good game. I think whilst I can, I'll give it 100%.
Yeah.
Try and get to the best I can get to until the next thing comes along, and maybe I'll golfer then might take a back seat. You don't know. Yeah. But, just making sure I leave enough time in the week for general interest projects. Things outside of work. So
nice one.
Yeah.
Well, look, thanks for coming on the sofa today. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom, your story. Congratulations on, like I said, building a business and exiting. Really appreciate your time. Brings me to my final question before we conclude things. Alex, you get a dinner party. You get 3 guests, dead or alive. Who's at your party?
Yeah, I found that this is hard. This is quite difficult, and so my line of thinking is, if you're going out for a dinner party, it's got to be fun, right? It's got to be some comedy there. There's got to be some good stories. So I had 2 people in mind. I had Will Ferrell or Diego Maradona, which was quite diverse. Yeah. I elected for Will Ferrell because he's just a great comedian, really funny, and who knows where Diego would take the night. So that's my kind of wild card pick.
Okay, nice.
Of the 3. Second, I'm going to go for Richie Valens. I don't know if you know who Richie Valens is, but he was around in the 50s and 60s, a musician.
Okay.
Half Mexican, half American musician. Actually, I think he was fully Mexican, and he was the guy that came up with the reworked La Bamba.
Okay.
The song La Bamba, which is my go-to on the guitar, and sometimes, rarely, at the karaoke.
Do you want to have a go?
Oh, you got a guitar?
No, but you can do the karaoke. Maybe I'll get it on my phone.
Do you know it?
I do know. Well, yes, I do know it, but I wouldn't have a clue how to start it.
You start.
No, I've got no idea how to start it. Go on, go for it.
Well, it just goes. Well,
I don't know what we're doing. I'll just start clicking and moving.
Ba ba bamba. Right, that's all. That was
you didn't even sing. Career highlight for me. The party started.
Right, yeah. So that's why I don't
Legend. I love that. This is like you. I'm just going to do it. I like it. You've demonstrated you like.
But that's why I don't do many karaoke's, because that's what it sounds like. But hopefully they can do something with the sound on that and just a bit of auto tuning or something.
No, absolutely not. We're keeping it authentic.
Yeah, well, I need the guitar with it. But anyway, so yeah, that's basically what we'd be doing at the dinner. Yeah. Richie Valens, crack out the guitar and we'd do a little bit of that. So that's one. And the last one's actually a family-linked one. So it's a guy called George Pragnell, and he is the great-great-great-grandfather of my kids, and he survived Titanic. He was a stoker on the boat, so the guys that put the coal in, and he managed to get out on the last lifeboat, the one that upturns. So you see the film, and there's one that sort of launches, goes onto its wrong side, and the story goes that he got his braces and hooked them onto the side of the boat, and then was able to survive, just out of the water, and until rescue happened, came back to Southampton, and then he built the family after that. So without him, kids, why all of that side of the family wouldn't be here. So it'd be great to sort of have him at the table, tell the story, thank him. So he's my third person.
What an amazing story. I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that story, and thank you very much for the music as well. Like,
I can't believe you got me to do that.
Can I hire you back?
Madness.
No, it's not
utter madness. Like, what was I thinking?
No,
you see how easy it is to get me up on the stage. Like,
yeah, I love it. Do you know what? It really just demonstrates to me everything you've been saying through this podcast about like just taking that leap and pushing yourself. You lived it.
I lived the dream.
You just did there and then.
Yeah. Do
you know what I mean? You're a man of your word.
We can edit
it's not a bullshit. It's great.
Out.
No, that's there. That's gonna be like the highlight reel of the whole thing.
Okay. Do you want to see this guy sing the band?
So what are they doing?
Wait till the end. It's gonna be, isn't it? Yeah. Oh God. All right.
Alex Martinez, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's great. It's a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.